ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track. And ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. Next year all our troubles will be out of sight.
Hey, there's Pat. Hey, Pat.
Hey, Jerry, what the hell went wrong? What's the matter with you? What are you, a kleptomaniac or what?
I forgot to take it off.
You forgot to take it off? Oh, you go into a department store, you put a suit on, and you walk right out. What are you, some sort of an idiot?
I'm sorry.
Where's the jacket?
Well, one of the gypsies took it.
Oh, the gypsies took it. Of course, New York has a lot of gypsies. You go on every block, there's a gypsy.
Well, it's true, I saw it.
Excuse me. Are you an entertainer? Are you in show business?
No, I...
Then what am I talking to you for? Jerry, bring the jacket back tomorrow.
All right.
That, of course, is Seinfeld, where Jerry is joined by George Costanza, played by Jason Alexander, and they're at the Friars Club. And who do you interact with when you're at the Friars Club, at least in its heyday? The one and only Pat Cooper. As far as I'm concerned, Pat Cooper is one of the greatest comedians of all time. But unlike a lot of other comedians who could be easily described, I don't think you can describe Pat. I don't think you'd say, oh, he did observational humor or he told knock-knock jokes. I think Pat was really a comedian to be experienced rather than described. I had the good fortune of interviewing Pat over the years many times. He was always terrific, and it really was exciting whenever Pat would get a little heated. For instance, in the response to this question about, of all people, Martin Scorsese.
Pat, you one aspect of your career people may not know about is that Marty Scorsese actually called you to...
Scorsese is a disgraziato.
Well, what happened? Tell us what happened.
Yeah, I roasted him and told what he was a disgraziato. He ought to be ashamed of himself. I didn't do his movie because he handed me a piece of garbage.
The movie Casino?
I don't play garbage.
What, the movie Casino?
I said it at the Friars. I got screaming laughs. But what he wanted me to do his 50th birthday, he didn't put me in a car to go to the restaurant. He told me to take a subway. I took the subway, rain or no rain. They put me in the vestibule. Then when he was ready to call me on his 50th birthday, I destroyed them all. De Niro was there. All the stars were there. Tony Bennett was there. I didn't ask for money. And he didn't take me home.
Wow, I had no idea.
To his face that night, but with a smile.
The one and only Pat Cooper, he had very little tolerance for anybody that didn't give him the proper amount of respect. Fortunately, we had Pat into his 90s, and he remained active and as sharp as can be into his 90s. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. There was a wonderful event honoring him at the Italian-American Museum in Little Italy over the summer on what would have been Pat's birthday, and the person that put that whole thing together, who has just recently returned to New York, a city that she lived in for some time, is longtime entertainer and the widow of legendary comedian Pat Cooper, Emily Connor. Emily, it was so nice to be able to see you last week on Johnny P's show. It's great to have you on my program as well.
Oh yeah, it really was, and I'm great. It's so great to be in New York, and I'll tell you, I went from 60 degrees in Vegas to 16 here. It's really something. But I got to tell you, I was laughing at the Seinfeld episode because the funniest thing about that is that was really Pat. He did that in one take. They kind of gave him the scenario. That wasn't really scripted, and that was really him. That's how he would talk to me sometimes, you know.
Oh, I believe it.
You know, and the casino thing, that made him so mad. Vinny Villa ended up with that role. He just didn't like the role that they gave him. But I said, did you even read the entire thing, the whole script? I don't even know that he did. But yeah, he had a fit about that and roasted Scorsese at the Jerry Lewis roast. It was, but that was him. He yelled about that all the time.
I'm so glad that he did. I wouldn't have it any other way. Now, Emily, for people that are less familiar with your career and your life journey than Pat's, you've had a fascinating career as a Broadway producer. You've been with NBC. Explain to folks how you met Pat.
Well, I met Pat in 2010 at the Friars Club at his book party when his book came out. I was there with Jackie Martling, and that's when I met Pat, and we became friends. And when my mother would come into town, we'd all go out to dinner, and he was just a really fun guy to hang out with. So I got to know him very well over the years, and then he invited me to go to Jerry Lewis's memorial when Jerry Lewis died, which was in Las Vegas, because he needed help traveling and so forth. So I went with him. We just got close on that trip, had a wonderful time, and we ended up just kind of staying together. And then I said, Pat, I don't know, after 21 years of being in New York, I think I want to move to Las Vegas. I've done it all here that I wanted to do, and I wanted to get into be in the nicer weather. And, I did it all here that I wanted to do.
No doubt. I'm glad you came back for Christmas. If folks are just tuning in, this is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. My guest is Emily Connor. We're going to tell you what Emily is up to now. She's putting together this upcoming show, Laughs and Legends, with Emily Connor Cooper, which we're going to tell you how you can stay tuned for once it drops. Emily, obviously, I don't know how old you are, but I know you're not in your 90s. I would imagine there's a pretty significant age difference between you and Pat. We've covered this issue on the air before of relationships with folks that have a pretty pronounced age difference. How did that work out with you guys?
Well, it worked out fine because Pat, I'm an old soul, but Pat was young at heart. He was just such a fun person. And, after a while, it just didn't really matter. Tony Bennett's wife was 40 years younger. Gene Kelly's wife was 40 years younger. Look at Dick Van Dyke. His wife is 46 years younger. It doesn't really matter, and it's like and Pat was an unusual person, obviously. He wasn't normal. And I never really wanted to get married. I was afraid of divorce, afraid of being bored, and I knew that with Pat I would have neither of those, right? So there was never a dull moment with him. It worked out fine,
No, that's great. I love hearing that. And it seemed like the two of you were very much in love. I'll tell you what I also was heartened by is that you're in New York spending Christmas with Pat's son, Michael. Now, this came up on the Howard Stern show from time to time over the years. They would always try to, inflame the tensions that were going on within Pat's family life. And it seemed like Pat would, he would have no problem airing out a lot of personal stuff on the air. Am I to understand that Pat has a good relationship with his children now, at least with Michael?
At the end, he and Michael were speaking, and they did iron out a lot. They got to talk about a lot, and I tried to help facilitate that. And Pat was getting older, obviously, and he didn't really want to revisit a whole lot of that, but as far as the other children, no, he was not speaking to them. But Michael, I got to know Michael, and they really sort of mended everything there at the end.
Wonderful.
Fortunately,
wonderful.
Yeah, and Michael's a great guy. I mean, all that stuff got aired out, which was very dramatic and a little much, but you know, it just was what it is, you know, and that was Pat.
That moment when you realize your skincare is actually working. That's Rodan & Fields, the #1 female dermatologist-founded skincare brand in the U.S. Designed by 2 dermatologists who don't just know women's skin, they know how to formulate for it. Rodan & Fields, love what you see. Tap the banner or visit rodanandfields.com/Spotify to get your exclusive welcome offer.
This episode is brought to you by Principles. Are there limits to the U.S. government's debt growth? What will happen if the debts are not curtailed? What should policymakers or investors do? Those are urgent questions that legendary investor and New York Times bestselling author Ray Dalio addresses in his new book, How Countries Go Broke: The Big Cycle. The book comes out in June and is available for pre-order today, wherever books are sold.
Lights, camera, innovation. Walt Disney Studios chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform the movie-making process. Together, we kept a remote production hub in Hawaii in sync with a team in California to bring Lilo and Stitch to theaters this summer. This is picture-perfect collaboration. This is Walt Disney Studios with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, streaming now only on Netflix.
What do you think Pat's legacy is as a comedian and an entertainer?
I think his legacy is really just going back to the being the original Italian comedian. He would always talk about how the Jewish community and the Jewish comedians were such an influence on him, and he started out in the Borscht Belt out there as well as Vegas. But I think, the Italians really have a lot of respect for him for the most part of, putting the Italian Americans on the map in the entertainment world.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to put it. As we all know, as anybody that ever met Pat knows, he was known for having a big personality and obviously a razor sharp wit. How did your experiences in the entertainment industry prepare you for life with someone as larger than life as Pat Cooper?
Well, my mother was in show business. She was a singer, and she's funny. She's actually going to come out to Vegas again soon. I was around her, obviously as a child, with her, quirky show business personality. And I've always kind of said that people in show business generally, especially comedians and funny people, have a certain chip. Like Shecky Green had that chip because I got to know him really well. That, so being around my mother sort of did. But no, there's nobody on the planet like Pat Cooper and never will be. And he was, he wasn't easy, obviously, but he was a lot of fun most of the time, and he had a huge heart. I miss him terribly, I'll tell you that.
That's great. As I mentioned, I know on Pat's birthday, you spearheaded him being honored at the newly reopened Italian-American Museum in Little Italy. Is there actually going to be a permanent Pat Cooper exhibit at that museum?
Well, the plan for 2025 is to do an exhibit of Pat Cooper's for about 3 months. And part of that exhibit may very well stay permanently. That's the plan. They don't have it written in stone yet, but we're working that out. That's one of the things for next year.
That would be terrific. Pat, obviously you alluded to meeting him at the Friars Club. I went to a number of events with him at the Friars Club over the years. He clearly had a very special relationship with the Friars and often closed a lot of shows there. Do you have any favorite memories of those performances or those experiences or stories about how Pat would bring the house down as only he could at the Friars Club?
Well, I mean, he was a closer for almost every roast. You know, they always had him close. I don't know if you've seen that Bob Grant one that's on.
Oh,
YouTube.
yeah, I love that. That was great. My only regret with that is I wasn't at that.
Yeah. A lot of those Friars roasts are actually, they got them out of the safe at the Friars Club recently, and they're in L.A., I believe, right now, and they're going to do something with them. So we're going to hopefully get to see them again. But to tell you the truth, like he roasted Donald Trump. He roasted, oh gosh, so many people. It's hard to say. I mean, those roasts were so. Everyone was very different. They were all spontaneous. He never knew what he was going to say, but he usually got really nuts. You know, you've seen him.
It's great. What's something about Pat that you think maybe the public never got to fully appreciate?
Well, the fact that he did have a big heart. He was a big softy, and that's part of where his anger came out. You know, so when he got hurt, he would, get angry. He was a very kind and generous person. He gave a lot of money to the St. Jude's and for children's research there in the Shriners Children's Hospital. He was a philanthropist. A lot of people, don't really talk about that. He did a lot for a lot of people. He was very generous and kind.
No, that was certainly my experience with him. All right. Talk to folks about what you're doing. You've got this upcoming show, this upcoming podcast called Laughs and Legends with Emily Connor Cooper.
Yes, it's actually Legends and Laughs with Emily Connor Cooper. Yeah. And so that'll premiere January 9th. For now, it's a broadcast podcast for now across the social media platforms, which we'll be marketing. But we'll have people like Rich Little, Jimmy Walker, Frankie Avalon, Wayne Newton, Tony Orlando. But then I'm also going to include newer talents. My passion is really preserving the legacy of Pat's era, not just Pat, but, the Sinatra and Dean Martin era, and preserving that. So, nobody forgets that. And the music, because it was a wonderful era in show business. And I'm very passionate about that. So that's what we'll focus on a lot with that.
That's great. And we have a lot of great listeners in Las Vegas listening to us right now on K-Dawn. And a lot of folks may be interested to learn about this new Walk of Stars. You're the ambassador. You're on the board of directors. I think a lot of folks are familiar with the Hollywood Walk of Fame. What's this Vegas Walk of Stars?
It's been there for a long time. We have a new... it's been newly sort of, we're going to have to do some actual renovations to some of the stars that have been damaged because they've been there a long time. So we're working on, right now, working out some details with getting the organization sort of back together because it's lost some of its board members, a couple. And I'm just going to help reorganize it because most of the people in charge of it are in Palm Springs. So I'll be the entertainment ambassador, in Las Vegas, and we're going to start out for Pat, Sergio Franchi, and there are several people coming up this year, but it's all along the Strip. There's some in front of the Paris. Pat's will go in front of the Flamingo, but it's been there a long time, but we're going to start really marketing it and getting it, breathing some new life into the whole organization.
Yeah, no, that's outstanding. That's wonderful. I love that you're doing that. So if people do want to see that podcast when it comes to fruition, the best way to do it is just to follow you on Instagram.
Right, for now, yeah, and then we'll be marketing it.
Great. No, that's outstanding. Love to hear that. Emily, I mentioned earlier that Pat was somebody that defied description in terms of his comedic abilities. What was it about Pat that made him so funny?
Well, he was just a naturally witty person, but I think probably just the fact that he didn't care what anybody thought. He said what came to his mind. And I would sit and watch him or listen to him talk to his friends on the phone, and he would have me cracking up. I mean, just his whole point of view of life too was different and funny. Like, very similar to Shecky. Shecky was the same way. They just looked at life differently. They were geniuses. And Pat was definitely a brilliant person. You know, he was a street guy, though. He told you that, but he was brilliant. Yeah, I think he was a genius.
If Pat were here today, what do you think he'd say about the current state of comedy and entertainment?
Well, he did like Sebastian. We went to see Sebastian.
Maniscalco.
Yeah. Generally, he'd tell you it's not the same. It's not the same as it was. Just like music. You know, I mean, like I'm saying, their era, all those comedians, the Don Rickles, and there's just that was entertainment, right?
Yeah.
It's just not the same.
Yeah. Lastly, Emily, I felt, I felt bad that I caused you to waste a stamp the other day. You had affixed a stamp to me for a Christmas card, which was very nice to even be on your list. But then when you saw me, you realized you didn't have to mail it, which leaves a stamp that was already affixed to the envelope. Given where stamp prices are these days, which is to say higher than they've ever been in American history, can you recommend any strategies for getting that stamp off the envelope so that I might be able to use it again?
Yes, you can cut it off and get a glue stick and glue it on another envelope.
Perfect. Emily Connor Cooper. I knew I was asking the right person. Follow her on Instagram, and you can see her new podcast once it's forthcoming. Emily, you got to keep us posted on what's going on with that, with Pat's role on the Vegas Walk of Fame. That's really terrific. I've heard a bit about it from Oscar Goodwin, but you've got to keep us posted on that as well.
I definitely will. And I wanted to say I went to see Bob Anderson at Carnegie Hall 2 nights ago. Well, Saturday night. He did his Sinatra impression and Tony Bennett, and he was amazing. So he's another one that's keeping the era.
Love that.
Era going.
That's great. One of my favorite Pat Cooper lines of all time. It's been repeated so often it's almost become a cliche. Is when Sinatra tried to give Pat some guidance on what kind of material he should be doing. Pat told him, Frank, I don't tell you what kind of songs to sing. Don't tell me what kind of jokes to tell. And that to me epitomizes Pat's personality more than anything else. Emily, Merry Christmas. I'm glad you're in New York for Christmas, and there's no place like New York for Christmas. You're going to one of my favorite restaurants for dinner on Christmas Eve. Please tell everybody I said hi.
Yeah, Michael's on Avenue R in Brooklyn. Yeah, it's going to be wonderful. I will tell them, and thank you for having me tonight, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, Emily. Thank you. Hey, if you want to comment on any portion of our conversation, you're certainly welcome to do so. 646-720-0635. That's 646-720-0635. The nice thing from our perspective is if you call and you're kind of lame, either in terms of the quality of your phone call or what you would be saying, the substance of your phone call, Elias can just blame the fact that we're having phone problems on why he hung up on you. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. But if you think you have what it takes to make it through the rigorous Elias screening process, now's the time. 646-720-0635. That's 646-720-0635. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Straight ahead.
Today's episode is sponsored by NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast. Life comes with big money questions. Is it better to max out your 401k or put more in a brokerage account? Does buying a home make financial sense in today's market? Should you use extra cash to pay off debt or invest? NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast has the answers. Their finance journalists break down investing and budgeting strategies to help you build wealth and navigate major financial decisions. Make smarter money moves. Follow NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast wherever you listen.